Let's talk about the biggest gamble in human history and how we lost. In 1845, a biological apocalypse struck Ireland. It was called the Great Famine. A single microscopic mold, Phytophthora infestans, turned the country's entire food supply into black, poisonous slime overnight. 1 million people died. Another million were forced to flee their homeland. Why? Because humanity had placed all its chips on one single bet: the potato. We were told the potato was the ultimate survivor. We were wrong. But here is the twist that history books left out. Right next to the potato, growing in the exact same soil, on the exact same freezing peaks of the Andes Mountains, there was another tuber. A tuber that looked the blight in the face and didn't flinch. It is biologically immortal to the disease that killed 1 million people. It doesn't taste like starch, it tastes like tangy fruit. It has the crunch of an apple and carries a nutritional profile that rivals citrus fruits, something a root vegetable shouldn't be able to do. It is called oca, the lost queen of the Andes. So I have to ask you a very disturbing question. If there is a crop that is stronger than the potato, tastier than the potato, and virtually unkillable by disease, why can't you find it in the supermarket? Why have 99% of you never heard its name? Is it illegal? No. Is it hard to grow? Absolutely not. The reason it was erased from our food system is much more cynical. It's not because it failed nature, it's because it refused to obey the rules of the modern industrial machine. However, before you rush out to find this plant, you need to know why it has survived for 5,000 years. It has a defense system. Oca is protected by a chemical sour shield, a naturally occurring acid that, if consumed incorrectly in large quantities, can be dangerous for your kidneys. If you treat this like a carrot and just bite into it raw without knowing the protocol, you could end up in pain instead of paradise. But don't worry, stay with me until the end and I will teach you the ancient Incan technique of solar alchemy. It is a simple, zero-cost method using nothing but sunlight to strip away the acid and transform this root from a sour survival food into sugar-sweet delicacy. This is the story of the queen we left behind. To understand the true rank of this plant, we have to travel back 5,000 years, up into the thin, freezing air of the Peruvian Andes. We tend to think of the Inca Empire as the potato people, and it is true, they grew thousands of varieties of potatoes. But if you could travel back in time and look into the storage rooms of the Incan royalty, you would see a clear hierarchy. The potato? That was fuel. That was for the workers, the builders, the common stomach. It was reliable, but it was basic. But oca was the currency of status. Archaeologists have found ancient ceramic vessels molded into the shape of oca tubers, buried in the tombs of the elite. You don't build statues for mere calories. You build statues for gods. Why did they revere it so much? Because in the brutal climate of the high Andes, oca was their famine insurance. The Andes are a harsh mistress. Frost can strike at any moment. A bad freeze can turn a field of potatoes into mush in a few hours. But oca is tougher. Oca laughs at the cold. When the potatoes blackened and died, the oca kept growing. When the storage pits were empty of starch, the oca was still there, crisp and red, ready to be eaten raw without even needing a fire to cook it. For millennia, it was the second most widely planted crop in the entire empire, standing shoulder to shoulder with the potato. They were the king and queen of the mountains. So, what happened? When the Spanish Conquistadors arrived in the 1500s, they looted the gold, they stole the silver, and they took the potato back to Europe, changing the global diet forever. But they left the queen behind. They looked at this bright, colorful, resilient tuber, and they ignored it. For 500 years, oca has remained trapped in the mountains, waiting for a call that never came. Was it an accident? Or was there something about oca that the Western world just couldn't handle? It turns out, the queen has a very specific demand, a biological quirk that drove European farmers insane and banished her from history. The villain in this story is time, or more specifically, our obsession with controlling it. You see, oca has a biological clock that is completely out of sync with modern industrial agriculture. It is what scientists call photoperiodism, sensitivity to day length. The potato is what we call day neutral. It is easy, it is compliant. You plant it and it starts making tubers almost immediately. It doesn't care if the sun is up for 10 hours or 16 hours. It just works. Oca is different. Oca is stubborn. For most of the summer, while the potato is busy filling up its tubers underground, the oca plant is doing nothing. It grows lush green leaves, it looks beautiful, but if you dig it up in August or September or even October, you will find absolutely zero food, just empty roots. Why? Because oca is waiting for a signal. It evolved near the equator, where days and nights are roughly equal. So it is genetically programmed to only start making tubers when the days get short, specifically less than 12 hours of sunlight. In North America and Europe, that doesn't happen until late autumn. And here is the tragedy. Just as the oca finally wakes up and starts pumping energy into its roots to create those delicious tubers, something else arrives in the north, the killing frost. Winter hits, the ground freezes, and the plant is killed before it can finish its job. For a European farmer in the 1800s, this was a deal breaker. They couldn't wait until December to harvest. They needed food in September. They needed a crop that fit their schedule, not one that demanded its own. So the industrial machine made a cold calculation. They didn't care that oca was more nutritious. They didn't care that it was immune to disease. They labeled it inefficient. They labeled it too late, and they cast it aside. We sacrificed resilience for convenience. We chose the fast food over the smart food. And in 1845, when the Potato Blight hit Ireland, we paid the ultimate price for that arrogance. We realized too late that putting all our eggs in the convenient basket was a death sentence. But here's the twist. The villain of this story, that stubborn sensitivity to light, is no longer invincible. Because while the industry was busy ignoring oca, science was quietly working in the background. Let's strip away the agricultural politics and look at the cold, hard data. Why should you care about a tuber that is hard to grow? Because biologically, oca is superior to the potato in almost every metric that matters for human survival. First, let's talk about the potato killer, Phytophthora infestans. This fungal blight is the nightmare of every gardener. It can wipe out a potato crop in days. It is still a multi-billion-dollar problem today. But when scientists expose oca to this same lethal fungus, nothing happens. Oca is naturally immune. It doesn't need fungicides. It doesn't need genetic modification in a lab. It just is. Imagine a food supply that doesn't require a chemical hazmat suit to grow. That is oca. Now, let's look at nutrition. A white potato is essentially a biological battery. It's great for pure caloric energy, mostly starch, but it's chemically boring. Oca is a nutritional paradox. It is a root, but it has the chemical profile of a fruit. Research shows that oca is packed with vitamin C. In fact, in the high Andes, where citrus trees cannot grow, oca was the primary source of vitamin C that prevented scurvy for millions of people. It is also rich in iron and zinc, two minerals that are critically lacking in starch-heavy diets. And the flavor? This is where the science gets delicious. Raw potatoes contain solanine, a toxic alkaloid. You must cook them. Oca contains zero solanine. You can pull it out of the ground, wipe off the dirt, and bite into it like a carrot. It is crisp, juicy, and tangy. You can boil it, bake it, fry it, or eat it raw in a salad. It is the Swiss Army knife of survival food. So, we have a superfood that is immune to plague and rich in vitamins. The only thing stopping it was that pesky day length problem, right? Well, I have good news.
Modern plant breeders, like the dedicated team at Cultivariable, have finally cracked the code. Through years of selective breeding, they have developed new varieties of oca that are day neutral. This is a game changer. It means these new oca plants start producing tubers in the summer, just like potatoes. They don't have to wait for the autumn darkness. They can be grown in New York, in London, in Berlin, and harvested before the frost kills them. The final barrier has fallen. The queen is ready to take her throne. But there is still that one sour shield I warned you about, the chemical defense that scares people away. Science has confirmed oca's power, but to truly unlock it, you need to master the art of sun sweetening.
Now let's deal with the sour warning I gave you at the start. Biologically, oca protects itself with oxalic acid. It's the same compound found in spinach and rhubarb. It gives oca that sharp lemony tang. For most people, in moderation, it's harmless. But if you have kidney issues, or if you eat massive amounts raw, it can be hard on your body. And let's be honest, sometimes you don't want sour, sometimes you want sweet. This is where the Incas were geniuses. They didn't have sugarcane, they had oca. They developed a technique called solar alchemy, and you can do it right on your windowsill. Here is the protocol. When you harvest your oca, do not eat it immediately. Instead, take the tubers and spread them out in a sunny spot. Leave them there for 3 to 5 days. This isn't just drying them, it is a chemical transformation. The UV rays break down the oxalic acid, neutralizing the sourness. At the same time, the enzymes inside the tuber convert the starches into sugars. The result? The tangy lemon potato transforms into something that tastes like a sweet apricot or a dried fig. The potato cannot do this. If you leave a potato in the sun, it turns green and becomes toxic. Oca does the opposite. It uses the sun to become better. And that is why growing oca isn't just about trying a new vegetable. It is an insurance policy. It means that if the blight comes back, if the climate shifts, if the potato fails again, you won't starve. You will have a backup plan that has survived the Andes for 5 millennia. The queen has returned from exile. The question is, will you open the gate? So, I have to ask you to make a choice. In the battle for your garden's future, potato or oca? Will you stick with the fragile king, or will you plant the immortal queen? Type your choice in the comments below. I want to see which side of history you are on. Hit that subscribe button to join the reclamation. Knowledge is not lost. It is simply waiting for you to remember.